Imagine relying on an AI system to organize your entire life, your persistent memories, and your daily decisions. Now imagine what happens the second you can no longer log in. Who gets access? The legal challenge centers on personal cognitive systems based on artificial intelligence, digital environments distinct from simple cloud storage or generic chatbots. These systems are built around a specific individual. They accumulate persistent information over time and provide structured decision support, becoming so integrated into a person's routine that an uncontrolled transfer would disrupt their practical and patrimonial life. Under Brazilian law, the problem becomes acute in two situations: when the primary holder suffers a supervening civil incapacity, or when they die. The resulting crisis is one of legal convergence. Property rights, privacy rights, and succession laws all compete for control over the exact same informational environment. This conflict is often worsened by unitary qualification, the mistake of treating a complex AI system as if it were a single, indivisible legal object. Treating the system purely as an inheritable asset forces the transmission of highly sensitive data. As the research notes, this approach unduly sacrifices personality rights and the privacy of third parties. Conversely, applying a strict personal data protection framework creates a different set of risks. If the system is locked down entirely due to privacy concerns, legitimate succession interests are frustrated. For a user suffering from cognitive decline, blocking access to their financial routines or health reminders harms their practical continuity. This tension is rooted in the 1988 Brazilian Constitution, which simultaneously guarantees the right of inheritance and the inviolability of intimacy and private life. Standard frameworks like the LGPD or GDPR struggle here, as the processing of data concerning deceased persons remains a significant regulatory gap. A binary legal grammar fails these systems. Protecting them requires moving past unitary classification in favor of an internal, layered approach. This article proposes parsing the AI system into a tripartite legal architecture. At the base is the patrimonial layer. This slice contains elements with economic relevance, monetizable digital products, access credentials, and contractual positions. These components integrate into the estate as transmissible property for lawful administration. At the opposite end is the existential layer. This layer holds intimate communications, private reflections, and personality profiles. It also contains relational data involving the privacy of third parties. Because exposure would affect post-mortem dignity and living third parties, this layer defaults to being highly restricted or inaccessible. Separating these layers allows the law to apply different rules to different depths of the same system, resolving the deadlock between property and privacy. The third, connective slice, is the instructional layer. It consists of persistent prompts, recurring commands, and preference matrices that define how the system assists the user. This layer is critical in scenarios of supervening incapacity, where the holder is still alive but lacks the ability to manage their environment. Rather than relying on arbitrary decisions by a curator, the instructional layer acts as a guide. It preserves the holder's authentic life patterns and routines. The system does not replace legal representation. Instead, it functions as an interpretive and operational support for lawful representatives. The instructional layer serves as the bridge that allows an AI system to function as a legally compliant prosthesis for a vulnerable mind. Legal protection must extend to the system's dynamic outputs, as these environments function as more than static archives. This is clearly illustrated by the recent legal debates surrounding the synthetic recreation of the voices of deceased artists. The controversy centers on using vocal traces to project synthetic performances the artist never recorded, moving beyond the ownership of the original master file. Personal cognitive systems operate on this same logic, processing previous interactions to generate derivative profiles, summaries, and simulated recommendations from stored memories. This creates a dynamic architecture of interaction records, the history of how the user queried the system, and profiles, which are the behavioral tendencies inferred by the AI. A complete legal framework must govern the reconstruction and operational use of these traces, preventing the opportunistic generation of new outputs. This flowchart represents a minimum legal heuristic, a practical tool for courts and fiduciaries to evaluate AI systems. It filters out disposable digital residue from dense operational environments requiring differentiated governance. Unless the user provided prior instructions, The default rule is restricted, purpose-bound access. Through anticipatory self-organization, the holder can take control of this process before a crisis occurs. By leveraging existing preventive mandates and testinary planning, a user can proactively designate which layers are accessible, archived, or deleted upon their death or incapacity. Users do not need to wait for new legislation. They can structure the legal destiny of their AI systems today using existing autonomy instruments. The final boundary in this governance framework is the limit on post-personal exploitation. As the text highlights, lawful access for the purpose of a digital inventory does not grant the power to continue extracting or simulating personal traces. There is a clear distinction between lawful continuity, facilitating care or preserving assets, and the opportunistic reuse of the deceased's identity. This framework does not require the law to grant artificial intelligence legal personhood. High courts, like the Superior Tribunal de Justicia, are moving toward this refined approach, recognizing that digital inheritance requires procedural filtering and specialized administrators. By abandoning the false binary of transmission versus blockage and adopting a layered grammar, the law protects the inheritance of reason with conceptual honesty.